Welcome back to Zoo Sicily, everyone, and welcome back to our Italia-inspired zoo. This build has taken quite a while, and I've been doing a couple of breaks, which I'm going to talk about why, but it's been cooking for a while now, and potentially it's been the reason why this episode is going to be rather special. If you are a fan of Zoo Sicily, and you've been close to this project, you will want to listen to today's episode because I have to announce something about this project, but more about that later. Let's talk about this build in specific over here. So we had the last DLC of this game the last DLC of this game was the Barnyard DLC. I've been doing some stuff in, my old barnyard area, but with the music in the background and obviously the zoo in front of you, you will already know, and you could have told from the thumbnail anyways, that this is going to be not the typical kind of American styled barn, or also not the typical like German styled barn. This is really a Italian, actually Sicilian styled barn I'm going for over here, or it's actually like a very old farmhouse instead. Like, it's not really a barn in that sense, so it's really like a farmhouse, and I wanted to utilize that to create a building that really resembles the tradition of the region and of the area, and pair that with a little bit of an animal encounter. So this whole thing has been turned into an animal encounter, and all 5 habitats surrounding this like old building, almost like a ruin, are actually accessible, and in it they will have animals, obviously. By the way, I'm very good at counting. I think it's 4 habitats, not even 5, and it's like the pathway into it is not really a habitat, but other than that, we have obviously 4 wonderful habitats. One is a shared habitat that's going to have the goats and the sheeps in. Then we will have the chickens, and we will have the donkeys, and obviously also the pig. I left out the alpacas and the Highland cattle. I just didn't feel they would fit that well in here, so my decision was against them. But other than that, I am very happy with all the farm yard animals. I will say that this build also took a while because I wanted to really get the feeling of this area right. And I may say that I'm very happy at the end, but I'm not 100% happy. However, the reason why I'm not going there is that I would need a lot more pieces for that. And piece count and performance, as you all know, is a very significant thing in a game like this. And Zoo Sicily still does work kind of well and still has quite a okay-ish performance. Like, it's not like super nice, but it's definitely good enough to keep it very nice and also have a very solid FPS. You'll see that later on in the real-time part. It's all good. Like, you can move around, but there is obviously the same danger that we had in the realistic habitat zoo as well, where everything was fine until I built this latest habitat with the night house, and all of a sudden the performance was like, yep, I'm out of here, and that's been it. Was a nice time, never see you again. And I do want to kind of try to avoid that with this project. And that said, we are at the news, I should say. Well, you see the building. I'm going to talk a bit more about the architecture once we are in the real-time part, and also later in this build. You'll see it's taking a lot longer because I took myself... I forced myself to really take my time this time. Look into some examples, making sure that everything is exactly how I feel it should be. So I was really paying attention on some details earlier on than usual, just to make sure everything looks right. And you'll see that also specifically with the roof design, everything is very custom in this build, and I wanted to make it feel exactly this way. However, now about the announcement. I have really made up my mind a lot about Planet Zoo recently. You may have noticed that the amount of videos about Planet Zoo has actually gone down, while the overall amount of videos on my channel hasn't. And frankly, the views also haven't been any worse. In fact, they have been better than ever before, mainly due to other games, due to some first looks, due to some, Manor at the moment being very prominent, and I still do enjoy that quite a lot. But and just to tag out the fear that some people may have, and maybe some people already clicked away now. You surely shouldn't have, because the opposite is the case. Many people may actually think now, oh my god, is he gonna stop with Planet Zoo? And the answer is no, obviously I'm not. But I feel like we have to change something, and I feel like we are at the point again where I have too many projects running simultaneously. And also looking forward to the next Frontier game being announced rather soon, I assume, because obviously we have reached the, actually today, it's the 1st of June. So that means we are legit in the next fiscal year of Frontier, which means the next game is about to be released from now on. I mean, obviously we know it's not going to be tomorrow, but since we are in the new year, we know that in the next, or within the next 365 days, a new CMS game from Frontier is going to be released, which will definitely take some of my attention and my time. But I want to be in a different position than I was with Planet Coaster back in the day, where I went fully on like, oh yeah, it's gonna be no problem, I'm gonna still play the same as before, which is a blank lie, because there is only so much time you have in a day, and I only have a certain amount of time in a day. And to actually make things a lot more streamlined, we will, and I'm sorry it took so long, but I wanted to give you a bit of a background, we will start a brand new zoo very soon. More about that in the coming days, but you can already give me some ideas what you want to see. I haven't finally, I have a very specific idea, but there are some things I can still adjust. But I would be more than happy if you guys could put me down an idea of what kind of zoo you would love to see from me. I definitely want to be taking it in a way like ZSH Plays does it. I'm quite sure you guys are aware of San Bernardino. And I think I really like the approach that he brought to the table, like really focusing on that zoo and bringing every single week an episode of that one zoo, really taking it to the next level. And you know, I've been doing that in the past with Yosemite, for example, but I feel like it's time to really end all the other projects and make sure that they are fine, and then go on to one single big project that is mainly our focus for the upcoming month. And I feel like this is the most fair way to treat this wonderful game. We know there is at least one more DLC coming, which we are all very hyped for. So this is exactly what the new zoo will also be taken in. So the new zoo will then be leveraging actually everything that the game does. So I have the feeling, you know, Yosemite at some point had to be stopped, because we reached a point in which Yosemite was feeling old and we couldn't really do too many things. And to make the whole thing more modern, I would have actually needed to completely redo, let's say 30 to 40% of the zoo, because I've been doing so many things implied that all of a sudden were doable, which is just the way it is with this game, because Frontier is watching our videos. We know that they're watching our videos, and they take inspiration from that. And so it's just logic that over a time, it just makes sense that they take inspiration from what we do to bring it into their games. And, you know, but at the end of the life cycle where we are right now, I think it's a fair moment to start over a new project that is benefiting from everything that the game is offering and will be offering, frankly, in the future. So that is going to be my approach. We are going to start a new zoo. However, this is by no means the last episode of Zoo Sicily. This is going to be the last major build, I want to say. And the next episode, or maybe 2 episodes, I may actually put it in one. I'm not sure if I'm able to, but the next 2 episodes will be focusing on finishing Zoo Sicily. I see a couple of ideas to bring at least in a couple of animals, not in the typical way, but in a different way. So like just some hygiene animals, that like what you would call it. Anyways, I'm gonna try something. If it's not gonna break, if it's not gonna break the game, I'm going to do this. But yeah, I think at max 2 episodes, and maybe I'm even going to stream again. Time at the moment, as I said, is not really easy to stream for me, but if there's a chance, I will potentially stream this, and we're going to fix a lot of these areas. And at the end of the episode, I will quickly give you an overview. If you're interested of Zoo Sicily or about Zoo Sicily and you want to see where the project is at the moment, stick till the end with me. I will be showing this off. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment, and I really hope that you guys can understand this decision. And I mean, I gave you enough reasons now, and a big description, and a bit of background why I'm going to do this. But you know, you can see this as a brand new start of one big project, and you have the chance to shape it with me by actually giving me your feedback right now to tell me what type of project would you love to see. As I said, I have a very specific idea in mind, but it's not like, as I said, I've not started, so at this point there is still room for change, and I'm very interested to see what you guys will come up with. But obviously, just to give you a heads up, I'm not going to do a Northern American style zoo again, because I have done this pretty much, or like, it's not Northern, but yeah, well, it is kind of, you know, with a zoo, Yosemite Valley, and a Mediterranean zoo, as you can imagine, is kind of not in the mix too, or either, because that's just been one I've been doing. So just as a heads up that these two themes will not play a role in my decision making whatsoever, but everything else could be a thing. So let me know what you guys would love to see the most, and from now on it's time to talk about this wonderful build. You see that we're already over halfway through this episode, and almost only the main building has been done, and this is exactly what I mentioned earlier. This has been the reason why this build took so long. I've actually started quite with the early access of the barnyard already, but yeah, it's just a couple of things just held me back. I wasn't like, I did a couple of iterations before that one. You can see that by laying out the circle over here, which is going to be deleted later on. It's just for me like a placeholder. That was already the third or fourth iteration in this region. And also the farm at the beginning has had a different location, which I also wasn't really too happy with. I'm going to show you later on. But yeah, so the build itself should really resemble like one of these kind of old southern Italian Mediterranean farmhouses, where you will find a lot of ruins actually around this area. Like a lot of these have been used in the past when, you know, climate was a bit more forgiving. Is that the right word? I don't know. But when climate has been rather okay enough to, you know, keep these farms going. Most of them had animals, but some of them also had, like, you know, obviously some crop fields and stuff like that. So they also didn't work out that well as climate change starts to happen. And so you will find a lot of these ruins around Italy, but also Spain, and just like Mediterranean. But I tried to really focus on some of the images I found on Pinterest and Google, and, you know, just trying to mimic the idea. So again, as always, if there are people from Sicily, and I do know that there are a lot of people from Italy, and specifically the southern part, watching this series, as you guys obviously are aware of your own region, I'm assuming. And, you know, I've gotten so much nice feedback from you guys, and really telling me that this entire zoo is capturing exactly the essence of that region, which, you know, was for me personally the biggest challenge, and also the biggest fun. Is that the biggest fun? The most fun? The most fun in this project. My English is not working today. I've actually carried a lot of big stones into my garden just an hour ago, and I'm feeling like completely done right now. I just got them from, like, I don't know if you guys know that, but it's like it's a small service from eBay. The big kind of eBay in Germany doesn't really play a role anymore, but they have like they had a different offering a couple of years later, which was like only for private people, where private people could exchange their stuff for like lower prices and stuff, so like purchasing from private. And I found someone who offered some stones literally 200 meters away from here. Like, I found it online. I was like, hey, wait a sec, that's just two streets away from me. So I wrote this guy, and they, you know, were having these stones for like a very small amount of money, and we still need some stones in the garden. So I was like carrying them over. Just a bit of trivia here, why I'm a bit exhausted. But hey, you need to work for the beauty of your garden. At some point, I'm going to share an image of my garden, but, you know, being a content creator, I've done that wrong in the past. Like, I'm not so big, okay, don't get me wrong, but I've had people messaging me in the past, and also sending mails, like actual letters to my house, which was very confusing, because I was completely confused how they found my address. And so I was like, ooh, maybe that's not too good of a thing to put it out everywhere. So I've been, you know, becoming a bit more aware of the fact I shouldn't share too many information out there to make it too easy for people to find out where I'm living. Like, if people want to, they will find anyways, but, you know, don't need to make it too easy. However, speaking about too easy, it wasn't too easy to make this area look exactly like what I had in mind. And At the end of the day, I went for a design that was a tiny bit more overgrown or a tiny bit more lush than what you usually would find, I guess. But I just felt like for this zoo endeavor, I had the idea that this looks a bit nicer to have some more foliage just growing around. Just making sure, because, you know, this would be maintained. It's a zoo. You would have people watering everything. So there's a chance of it becoming more green anyways. And so that was the main idea to do that. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy with how the design turned out. I'm very happy with how the layout of the pathing just ties into this area now. I even went with the in-game railing and I was fine with it. So yeah, a couple of things I really enjoyed doing. And you can see here there's a bit of a skip forward. I was going through the zoo and I was checking out some items we were using throughout Zoo Sicily to basically recycle them in here, as I didn't want to do more shelters and stuff like that to not make this design suffer in any form. And by suffer, I mean I still want to make this barn, or how do we call this, farmhouse? I don't know, ruin of a farmhouse, whatever we call that. I wanted to maintain this as the star of the show, and this was the reason why I decided to go with only some leftovers from other projects. I just felt like this is good because they are all so subtle that they don't really play a role. And you can see I'm using the wombat house over here as for the goats and the sheep. I thought that was a good idea, even though the back of the house isn't too realistic anymore. For me personally, that was just to give them some actual shelter for the game, as we still have welfare turned on. But in my imagination, the barn itself can become a shelter for the animals anyways, and you know, we're living here in Sicily, so the only shelter they would need is for some storms and some rain and, you know, thunderstorms, whatnot. But other than that, they will be good in this region. You know, they would be getting a bit of shelter, but other than that, these are animals that live outside anyways. So yeah, that was the idea. However, you can see we're getting to an end. Just a couple of details here and there, using some tricks I've not used too often lately, but I felt like there's a good way to make some more details work in here. And yeah, so that is how we get already towards the end of the time lapse, and I'm gonna then take you on a little stroll through this area. And before that, or at the end of this, we will actually have a look at the overview of Zoo Sicily, how the whole thing looks right now, and what's the plan for the future 2 episodes, and how we're gonna end this whole thing. May come a little bit crazy, or maybe a bit spontaneous for some people, but honestly it hasn't. For those of you who know me, you can always tell by the amount of episodes of a certain zoo. You know exactly how I feel about this project, and you know, Sicily hasn't been tackled too often lately, which is always a sign that I'm starting to think about a project. However, this has been it, so let's meet again in a second in the zoo. So here we are in the real-time part, and as you can tell, this is the finished region, my god, and it's looking absolutely beautiful. I also love the fact that I just slapped in these picnic tables over here. Just pause the game real quick, and we have the people just sitting, like, look at that, they're just sitting by the tree. And I'm just loving everything about this. I'm really loving every single thing about this, because it just looks absolutely realistic. So let me just put in the play. And I'm a bit confused, because I didn't understand that I can slap them anywhere with the free build mod and I will still use it, because I thought people will only use it as soon as it's kind of connected to the area, but it's apparently not. So that's kind of cool. That's really cool. I'm mega happy that this works. So yeah, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, this is absolutely exactly the way I wanted to have this. But let's have a look at, gosh, I was so confused of my broken English. But yeah, you can see people walking in, have a good time, go pet the animals, and I will set this all to low, by the way. I've now a default amount of people in here, but oh, actually maybe I'm gonna leave it, because as soon as this is not the most famous area anymore, people will get into other areas anyways. But you can see this over here, animals are lovely, having a good time in here. These goats and sheep actually use these rocks and so on, even though it's not like perfectly adjusted, but it just looks so good. Look at that. I love the fact that they jump on all these stones, like as goats and sheep would behave. Oh, that's so good. And then we have this inner area here, and you can see I left it relatively bare bone, simply because we would have a lot of traffic in here anyways, and the gates would slap open and closed the whole time. So this is why I made sure that everything is rather open. You can also see that I would need to kind of, yeah, maybe we would need to have like a central area to keep this roof stable, I guess. But yeah, you can see I covered up some areas here with the hay bales, and we've got some vending machines, we've got some hygiene stations over here. There's a bit of congestion going on here, but you know, I'm not too worried about this, because that's gonna change as soon as I said, the area isn't too popular anymore, which at the moment it is. But I feel like actually at the end of the day, it turned out absolutely nice looking. I mean, this is exactly the idea I had from the very beginning, and I think it was really worth it that I was abandoning all the concepts that really didn't work out. So first things first, like this is the area where it is, and I feel like it's sitting very nice on this hill in the midst of these two houses. But the first region I tried to put it in was actually here. Tried to fit that in here, and for some odd reason I didn't feel it. Like this was the first area, and sure, it could have been nice, but it was like next to the Casa Tropicana, which also from the region doesn't really fit into well. Oh my god, all the animals boxed. Let's not look at that. But yeah, while we're at this, we can already see what is going to be needed until this is finished, which honestly isn't that much. So the first thing I'm going to focus on is finishing off this area. You can already tell that this is kind of the blueprint of how I want to make these areas look, because this is like part of the background of our zoo. I will not go too much down here, but all these regions down here will be kind of done like this, making sure that there's a bit of like sand and greenery, not too crazy, just making sure it looks like a Sicilian field. There is really not that nature around anyway, so it is relatively open. The zoo itself is already pretty much, it is too overgrown for a typical Sicilian area, so that is our central oasis, and around this it's gonna look a lot less. This over here has been one of my biggest nightmares, I should say, because this one needs to be covered in these white stones to become actually Sicily. But at the end of the day, I will potentially not do this. After we've focused on this region, I will go over, and this will be both part of at least first episode, we will be finishing this off over here. We have this leftover terrace like in here for like a bajillion years now, and I wanted to have this as this wonderful overlook into this lake region and into the entrance area, which obviously isn't finished as well. But this one is going to be a simple one, so we're going to do this and this simultaneously, because obviously we want to make sure that this looks nice. So we are going to put in this and that, and so this would be first episode done. And the second episode will be focusing on this backstage area, which has been left open since the very beginning. But yet again, I won't do too much drama about this. This will be like a very pretty, like normal background area, like a little backstage area. I'm gonna put like some walls in here. This side will be nicely done, because this is what you can see from the side. The rest will be hidden with some stones and so on, so that's gonna be it. And obviously this is already the backstage area connected to the backstage area anyways. I will change this area a little, because this is super bare bone now and unrealistic, so I will put a couple more things into this underground view, because this is, yeah, as I said, at the beginning looks very, very odd, and I don't really care too much about the fact if they can deep dive or not. I just want to make this look good. And since the otters, like when I did this habitat, remember, we will still having otters that required 4-meter depth, so that was the reason why this is such a ridiculously deep area. But at this point, as we don't need this anymore, I can make this look nicer. And once we've done this, there are 2 more things to do, and you know, talking about this, I'm not even sure if this fits in 2 episodes, but hell, we are going to try this, because this has to be done. And once this is done, I will actually continue the parking lot a little bit further out into this area. This is what I was promising from the very beginning. There will be a bigger parking lot, and this one is going to be on the top of this hill. So this is going to be all parking lot, and the rest is going to be forest and fields. Maybe another vineyard, who knows. So you can see there's already, the connection is already laid out with our parking lots. We have all the pieces, so that's not gonna take too long actually until we've done this. You can see there are still all the butterflies flying over here. I still like the idea that the parking lot was actually our bed habitat at the same point. I just really like this at the same time, by the way. And so yeah, we're gonna get rid of, oh my god, I can actually, you know what, is this still connected to our area? It's not. We can actually get rid of it. Okay, 10 FPS more. No, I'm just kidding. But so yeah, this is, by the way, this was a test how it would look like if I do the whole rock in this, and I'm not gonna do this. So same goes for over here. I will potentially get rid of this because yeah, if I do this, I would need to do this everywhere, and I won't because that's gonna destroy the performance. So I may actually get rid of this, and we have to live through with the bit of a darker texture here. I think that's just what we can do. And last but not least, I will have to make our waterfall go down into this area. I'm not too sure if I'm gonna do this too crazy or if I'm just going to put some of these waterfall pieces in and, like, you know, hide them. I'm not too sure how this is gonna look at the end of the day, but that is the final plan. So this is how it should look at the end of the day. We will have our Zoo Sicily finished. All the regions around will receive a little bit of a glow up like I did over here. And you can see this from above. Actually, as soon as you have all the sand in here, it already looks a lot more Sicilian. Yeah, I like this. I really like the idea of having this. I do not like the outside because that's like typical German and not Italian. That looks so odd, by the way. I wish to be able to exchange the skybox, which I can't. So we have to live through with what we have in front of us. But yeah, I guess that's it, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this little tour. Let's go back to our build from today's episode, which I am absolutely still madly in love about because it just works out. Everything looks good, everything works as intended, and yeah, there's not really more to wish from a build, I guess. So hopefully you guys liked it. Also, check out my sub counter. We are just a couple of people away from 90k, so please, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me the favor to do that, to bring me to these 90k, and be prepared to finally hit the 100k maybe this year with the help of the new CMS game of Frontier, you know. That would be awesome. So thank you so much, guys, for watching, for supporting, for being here. I hope you guys had a good time. I know I did, and I know that I'm going to have an even better time with the new project. So let me know in the comments down below what you think, and I'm going to talk to you in the next one.